Welcome to Cars in Korea. I introduce newly released Genesis, Hyundai, and Kia cars. And I'm here today to check out fifth concept car from Genesis brand called Genesis X. And I'll show you all about it inside right now. Starting with the first concept from New York, we have GV80. And the name itself actually became the name of the car, as we all know. And one thing to definitely take away from here is that it essentially came out almost identical to that of the concept car that we see right here. Third one, my personal favorite, and I believe it'd be the case for most of the people, it's Essentia concept. And certainly with the Genesis Coupe to come in the near future, Genesis will be implementing a lot of the design and ideas that they have presented on this Essentia for sure. Not quite so sure about the door there, but the fourth one we have right here is the Mint concept. And a lot of this design was actually observed from Genesis GV60. That one recently rolled out and then I have reviewed it. So go check it out right here in the cards. So what we see from Genesis X, the fifth concept from Genesis, that will be seen a lot on production models. So the rumor has it that we'll be seeing a lot of what we see today here on Genesis X on freshest model to come, Genesis G90, the full-size sedan. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Genesis X. Immediately, I can start off with the quad lights right here, stretching left and right. Never seen before. This literally stretches out all the way right into the G matrix pattern and right here to the fender, but it's not discontinued, rather connected literally at the end of the fender. On the profile, I can immediately notice the neon caliper right there, something that Genesis and Hyundai Motor Group is pursuing in terms of high performance calipers, as we have seen from the EV6 GT. Speaking of the neon caliper, within the neon caliper, well, I assume that it is at least 6 piston. Yes, it is 6 piston. They also have the 2 lines going across. And you might think that it is a one solid wheel spoke, but it is not. Actually, it is divided into 2, both from the top and back. One more thing, the center lock wheel cap. First time we see that on Genesis, and that's also a characteristic that of us racing cars. So you can take out the wheel lock at once and change it, swap out the wheel right away. What Genesis is saying here is that pursuing for the luxury, this car is also geared and shooting towards the sports cars. The wheel setup right here is staggered. That means they have different size on the front and on the back. And the rear tire actually is larger than the front. So the front of the tire has the 275/30/21. The rear is with 295/25/22. And this DSM digital side mirror will be the latest version of the Genesis that we have been seeing. Unlike Ioniq 5, the largest DSM like a conventional mirror that we have seen, the latest DSM on a conventional model would be the GV60, and the GV60 actually has gotten much smaller. On this Genesis X, this DSM is even smaller. That will not be the ultimate DSM, rather that mirror portion will be completely gone one day for sure. And that day is not long, trust me. Check out this G matrix pattern grille. You'd think this may be the things that we have been seeing on other Genesis, such as G80 or GV80 for that matter, but this is definitely different seeing it in person because it's much more slanted facing downwards, however a little bit more round shape towards the end, whereas it still has that edge to it. So every time with this G matrix pattern grille, the Genesis, it has the different and unique pattern of its own. One more thing I want to point out right here is how the grills are within the grills inside. So on top of the G matrix pattern, you can see that there is another tiny grills inside. And this car, of course, concept being EV, and for the record, we'll only be seeing EVs for the future Genesis. So the all inside is completely covered up, both top and bottom. However, Genesis still keeping up deciding with the leaving over the front grille, which is not quite necessary for EV cars as we know. And that characteristic of the quad lights is still carried all the way to the back, of course, with this parabolic design, very curvy and smooth towards the end. And this car being a concept, there is no parting line that would open up a trunk, but the design suggests that it would be a typical trunk. However, Genesis X has maintained to keep the design of a GT car with a fast backdropping coupe-like design. Speaking of the design, one more thing I want to point out is the Genesis X still has the proportions that of a conventional sporty or sports cars. So unlike the very short overhangs to increase the cabin space inside, Genesis X is keeping up with the traditional sports car-like design. And even on the back of the grille, this Genesis identity is also found. That crest shape where the exhaust used to be, the Concept X is keeping that shape. And right here, this is DLO, first seen from the Genesis GV60, stands for Daylight Opening. Genesis GR3 in a clay model.